Well, folks, here we again for the weekly forecast. And before we get to the main forecast, during this last week we dealt with some fairly warm temperatures with a couple cold fronts that moved through, cool conditions off, and now we're dealing with this big upper air trough that is going to be moving into the region, and it's going to bring us some pretty significant rainfall by all accounts as we go through this weekend. Now, before we get to the main forecast, we want to bring you up to date on the latest ENSO event in the equatorial Pacific. This is our El Nino Southern Oscillation region. This is where we look for El Nino, La Nina development. And we are starting to see some changes that are starting to occur, and we want to bring you up to date on those because they do have implications for our winter precipitation. So let's take a look at the current equatorial Pacific region. You'll notice this cold pocket of water here. These are below normal sea surface temperatures running between 1 and 3 degrees below normal in the eastern equatorial Pacific, around an average of 1 degree below normal in the central equatorial Pacific. Below the surface, we're running approximately 200 to 250 meters of below normal sea surface conditions, and up to departures up to about 6 degrees below normal. And this is actually funneling all the way into the eastern equatorial Pacific, coming to the surface, and that's why we're seeing the intensity right here in the eastern equatorial region. We'll also notice that we have some warm conditions in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Basin, and we've seen an active hurricane season. Typically, La Nina conditions will portend to an active hurricane season. In the wintertime, we would expect above normal moisture 70% or greater of the time in the Pacific Northwest, the Eastern Corn Belt, with below normal precipitation across the southern United States. And we also see below normal conditions across temperatures across much of the Dakotas. So as we look at today's upper air charts, what we do have is a very intense upper air low pressure system, this big trough that is going to slowly migrate eastward. Deep vegetation moisture up in advance of this. Low pressure to the Colorado, southeast Colorado region is going to pump that moisture up into our region, and so we expect to see a big line of showers and isolated thunderstorms develop, slowly moving eastward as we go into tomorrow, starting to impact more of central and eastern Nebraska. We still see that low down the Texas Panhandle. Slow moving will generate additional moisture feed toward the north, and widespread precipitation with some heavy amounts likely across portions of central and north central Nebraska. Then on Monday, this system starts to progress toward eastern Nebraska. We see high pressure behind it. That's cool high pressure, but in front of it, the deep moisture feed will continue, and therefore we would expect to see the major precipitation shift from central into eastern Nebraska and points up toward the north. And then as we get into Tuesday, we start to see this trough weakening somewhat. The low pressure system associated with this trough will move up into southern Wisconsin. That will take the vast majority of the precipitation to the east of us. There is some lingering showers expected across southeast Nebraska during the first half of the day. And then this upper air trough starts to really fall apart as we get into Wednesday. High pressure dominates much of the central plains through the southeastern United States, and so most of the precipitation will be formed well to our east and to our south, as we do have a little impulse movement across the southern plains. Now as we go into Thursday, we see this trough starting to make its way toward the Great Lakes, and we see big high pressure ridge starting to build in. Does show a surface low up in northwestern Iowa, but most of the moisture is going to be well to the east of this low pressure system, basically from the southern plains region all the way up into the Ohio River Valley. Dry conditions in the central plains, and this high pressure ridge starts to build in toward the end of next week, bringing us back to more normal like temperatures with high pressure and control. And it appears as we go even farther down the road that dry conditions are going to be the story of the day as we start to see the precipitation shifting off toward the southeast on Friday. As we go into next week and then following week, we're looking at below normal temperatures from next Thursday through the following Tuesday. To our south, to our northwest, we're looking at above normal temperatures, and this is a story of the day as we start to see the precipitation stay to the south, dry conditions in our region, and this continues at least to October the 7th.